So we begin with a visit to Chesterton Road, by the Mitcham's Corner roundabout actually, where a man who 20 years ago made a couple of highly acclaimed theatre projects based on the music of Syd Barrett and Pink Floyd. He's worked on projects since with the Royal Shakespeare Company and ran the successful Other Side venue at the Engineers House. In a few weeks' time, he's going to open the Artyst, that's Artist spelt with a Y, an ethical arts business cafe.
Now, Syd Barrett, one of the founding members of the Pink Floyd, has died at the age of 60.
He inspired musicians from Bowie to Blur.
He spoke through his songs.
A guiding light who leaves a legacy which continues to inspire.
But the guitar playing, it's, you know, that minimalist sort of dissonant style influenced punk, it influenced indie music.
With their lead guitarist and singer Syd Barrett, were banned from the Queen Elizabeth Hall after covering it in daffodils.
Certainly Syd looked like he was famous before he was famous.
I mean, there were fans who stayed with the Floyd because of Barrett, because of their love of Barrett.
He was very stylish.
This is take 5, and it's a 4-track copy of take 2.
Hello, my name's Matthew Taylor, and I'm standing on Chesterton Road at the site of the old HSBC Bank.
Lean out of the window.
Which we're converting into a new cafe, bar and event space commemorating the life and work of Syd Barrett.
Golden hair.
Check out the floor.
We've got the colours specially mixed.
Oh,
Depends
I'm
on...
being silly. So you've done this?
Oh, we've done that,
Yes,
yeah. So you can see a stripy floor.
Red and black stripes.
Which looks like the Syd Barrett album cover, The Madcap Laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fascinating story. I think that's why people still remember him and want to celebrate him. Yeah, it's that combination. It's the creative genius who suffers for his art, I suppose.
Syd Barrett was a musical legend, although he'd been a recluse for 30 years.
Yeah, I'm of a generation which remember Floyd when they were first around. And so we just thought they've made a huge impact, not just locally, but globally. But there's not really that much celebration of their achievements. There's a Syd Barrett plaque at Anglia Ruskin. Some pubs have got photographs, and I think there's a mural, is it the Anchor pub? You think of other places which have got famous rock bands that achieve global fame, like the Beatles, of course, in Liverpool, Black Sabbath recently in Birmingham. Yeah, they make a big thing out of it. Yeah. But Cambridge has never really, I don't think, fully acknowledged the impact of Pink Floyd and Syd Barrett. And of course, Syd Barrett was there right at the very beginning. He was their original writer and frontman and just a very charismatic chap who launched the band, really.
If you look at a band like The Libertines, someone like Pete Doherty, he's completely bound up in his Syd Barrett influences.
How he was this creative genius who kick-started a particular form of music.
But as their success grew, there were stories of excessive drug-taking, and Syd Barrett was clearly becoming ill. His behaviour was increasingly erratic.
Yes, took too many drugs and had to come back to Cambridge and then stopped doing music altogether. He didn't stop being creative. Originally, he thought of himself as an artist. So he went back to painting. That's what he spent his time doing.
Their music was a hobby.
Yes.
His art was him.
Yeah.
He was an artist.
And he never liked the limelight anyway. He was quite a shy chap. It all depends on the lens through which you view his life story, really. Clearly, he had issues, and a lot of creative people do.
I didn't know that creativity was such a drive. Vital as much as food and drink.
So what we're trying to do here is create a space in which everybody feels welcome, but people who are suffering from stress, if they just want a place where they feel comfortable and at ease. But yeah, a lot of people associated with the project are very much focused on well-being, and they're part of the project because that's what they particularly like. The focus isn't on stand-up drinking, the focus is on the well-being side of things.
A well-being cafe. Something especially important in recent years, where COVID and social media have encouraged more and more interaction digitally and distanced. Here is a venue free of past social convention like traditional cafes and pubs. This is about connection in a time when many might feel disconnected. Perhaps this is something that Syd himself would have appreciated.
We've built a hatch, a little window onto the street. We'll be able to serve people who just want to stop and grab a coffee or an ice cream.
A serving hatch?
Serving hatch, yes. Yeah. Yes. So that you don't even have to come in if you don't want to. We have got some outside space. There's a big pavement at the front. So there'll be a good few chairs. So I think in the evening, sun shines on the pavement. It's a cafe bar, but there's no pressure to drink alcohol. We'll have a lot of non-alcoholic drinks. Our food will be vegan. So you won't feel under pressure to behave as if you were in a bar with your mates where you feel under some pressure to drink 6 pints a night or whatever. It'll be much more clearly on well-being. We don't want to be prescriptive. If somebody wants a bottle of wine to share with their friends and it's got alcohol in it, absolutely fine. But the emphasis is very much on non-alcoholic drinks and food which is vegan and vegetarian friendly. We've got a big basement which we're working to turn into a multi-purpose space. Yeah. So phase 1 is getting the cafe and the bar set up, and then phase 2 is opening up the basement. So down there we'll have space for workshops, music workshops, yoga sessions.
So we're lifting off this centre panel?
No, this bit.
Oh, this bit?
Yeah. And then rail. But this is the thing that really attracted me to the space.
Yeah.
Because the basement is actually bigger than the ground floor.
Can we check it out?
Yes, let's go down.
Brilliant.
Yeah, be careful here.
Yeah, don't worry about me, I'm replaceable. Wow, look at this. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so I say it's bigger than the ground floor.
Ah.
And it's got a higher ceiling. But yeah, there'll be a small bar down here as well. There'll be a little servery as well. So we can do film shows, we can do talks. One of the first things we're thinking of doing is, I don't know if you've heard of a chap called Rob Chapman. He's written 2 or 3 books on Syd Barrett. So, yeah, one of the first events here will be a talk by Rob Chapman on his latest book.
I had this email from Warren Desange's daughter.
Oh, yes.
About her dad's passing.
Yes.
By the time we broadcast this, his funeral will have been on the Wednesday.
Yes.
Warren was a good friend of Syd's.
Yes.
Did you know Warren?
I knew Warren. We did talks and walks based on Syd. And Warren, he was the expert because he knew Syd. I think he was at school with him. And I think he was his manager when he went solo. I'm not quite sure about that. And he's written a book on Cambridge in the 60s and the whole music scene back then, which was very vibrant. Because he used to run called Hope Yard.
Did he run Hope Street Yard?
Yeah, he ran Hope Street Yard, yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
God, oh.
Yeah, when it was full of little antique places.
Yeah, that was great then.
Yeah. So, yes, I knew Warren. Yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah.
We want to encourage free speech, critical thinking. One of the tours is on Wittgenstein. He's buried very near me at the top of Huntingdon Road. So the idea behind our tours is that they might start, say, at the Ascension Parish Burial Ground, but then the walk would end up here, a special cocktail sort of based on Wittgenstein. Yeah, so we want to do as many of those as possible as well.
And presumably one about Syd.
Yes.
And of course, as we were saying earlier about the blue plaque, Anglia Ruskin, he studied there when it was CCAT, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was an art school as well, wasn't it, back then? And I think that's where he met Mick Rock.
He had a lot of time for Mick Rock. Syd liked him. I've got a really, really lovely photo of Syd that Mick Rock took, which is just face, and he's looking really cheeky. It's really good. And Mick Rock said, I caught him when he was looking cheeky.
Yes.
And that's lovely. He was a brilliant photographer, I believe.
I believe so,
yeah.
Yes.
Warren Desange and Mick Rock were key people in Syd Barrett's life. It's the intention of this venue to celebrate these people, his friends, because we are all the product of our interactions. So, if you visit the Artyst, you'll probably find articles and photos of Warren, Mick, and plenty of others adorning the walls of this Syd Barrett Cambridge cafe.
Syd had 30 years, he was sculpting, he was painting, he was working in the garden. So there was this sense that although we look upon it as tragic, the loss of Syd Barrett prior to his death, you can actually see it as, well, maybe he was happier then, because especially towards the latter period of his fame, he didn't seem happy at all.
We're still decorating, finishing things off. But it should be more or less complete within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we hope. I mean, again, I hope it's a continuation of what we were doing before, where we had all sorts of clubs and groups meeting up. We had sewing clubs and poetry reading and all sorts. The more of that that's going on here, the happier we'll be.
Better do that again, please. OK, I'm ready.
That was Matthew Taylor and his Syd Barrett-themed cafe and bar called The Artyst. And as they get closer to opening, he's looking for volunteers to help out with various aspects of the cafe. And he also has a crowdfunding page. Just search for The Artyst, that's spelt with a Y, on crowdfunder.co.uk. We are really looking forward to this one. It's great to see such an interesting new venue that promises to help so many people with its arts and its well-being programme. Something that could really foster future local legends.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it opening too. That just sounds fantastic. And what Matthew said about how other cities tend to celebrate their artists. I mean, in Liverpool, it's just extraordinary. You know, there are tour buses that take you around parts of the city the Beatles came from or played at. There's a Beatles museum. Liverpool Museum's got quite a lot about them. And there's any number of Beatles souvenir shops. And there's even a Beatles hotel called A Hard Day's Night. But in Cambridge, you know, you struggle to find any mention of Pink Floyd or Syd Barrett, you know, other than, you know, the odd blue plaque that isn't easily seen.
Yes,
so this is welcome news.